Hello, beautiful people. My name is Emma.
And I'm MC.
And we are your hosts of the G-Forces podcast. So, this past weekend was the Japanese Grand Prix. We are coming at you a little bit later than usual. And I actually only watched snippets of everything. I tried to focus enough after the fact. Well, it's okay. I watched the race. I was away this weekend on vacation, so I didn't watch the race because I was on vacation. And I saw everybody say how boring the race was. And I come home from vacation and MC says how boring the race was. And so it's really difficult to try to watch something when everybody's already told you how boring it is and you're jet lagged. And it's like, well, then why? Damn.
I think the problem this weekend that we are seeing that a lot of other podcasters and other motorsport people have talked about is the fact that everything happens in quali. Like, quali is the exciting day for a lot of these races because it's so hard to pass and to,
The
like,
cars are
have
gigantic.
these battles. And so, yeah, there was, like, a little bit of stuff happening, but, like, I don't know, it's...
Well, yeah, there wasn't really any
It was a very clean start. Like, there was, like, all these things that, like...
It was a clean race.
Yeah.
Nothing happened. It was just like, but like also, I feel like I've seen some people say, they're like, oh my gosh, this is an omen for the rest of the season.
Yeah,
the rest
I've
of the
seen
season's
that a
gonna be so
lot.
boring. Guys,
It's...
there's always going to be at least one race that's boring. Not every single race is going to be chaos.
Well, I also think, too, it's just we're dealing with historical tracks that, you know, are on the calendar for a reason. Like, I think that there is a lot of meaning, but I just think, unfortunately, people are already trying to sum up the season based off of three races, which is okay if you want to do that. But I don't know. I think people haven't really been bringing that many, like, intense upgrades. Like, there hasn't been anything crazy in my eyes that has, like, caused people to have so little faith in the season.
Oh, okay. I thought you were meaning like there hasn't been enough upgrades yet, so like that's why it's gonna be boring. And I was about to respond back and be like, that's because it's always like that during this time of year.
What I was saying was more like, guys, nothing's happened yet. Like,
it's the third race. They're still getting used to their freaking cars.
You also have to remember how many people switch teams. Like, this is the first time they're figuring out these cars.
Yeah, you want to know why Lando, Max, and Oscar are doing so well? They're the same damn cars they've been in for the last couple of years.
Yeah. But, I don't know. I definitely think in terms of action, there really wasn't any in the race. I do think that there are things to talk about. Like, I definitely think that there are important things that happened and some angering things that happened. And I don't know, I think as a weekend overall, I don't know, I love Suzuka. Like, I love the fans.
It's one of my favorite tracks.
It's one of my favorite tracks to, like, watch drivers drive
It's
on.
so beautiful. The fans are so fun.
Yeah. So, at the end of the day, I enjoyed it. I didn't think the race was that amazing. Like, nothing crazy
I watched
happened.
it today as I was multitasking while working, and I missed nothing from not paying attention.
Yeah.
So. Because they basically got off the start, and they all just kind of stayed where they were.
Yeah, and I think that's...
And the only, like, entertaining thing that was going on was Alex Albon's, like, sassy comments to his race engineer. And then the rest of it was just people staying where they were. Like, I don't even think I feel like I heard commentary from any other drivers, even. Like, no drivers were talking to their race engineers.
Well, they just didn't... Well, yeah. There just was... It felt very underwhelming this year, unfortunately.
It
as
happens.
the race. But, like, overall on the weekend, it was fun.
Yeah. Well, I think there's only one thing that we have to talk about before we get into everything. The Yuki Tsunoda switch with Liam Lawson. Obviously, that's very important going into Japan. That happened a couple of days after... Where was the last race? China.
Mm-hmm.
We found that out after a couple days after that. And it kind of shook everyone. To be honest, I did not expect Red Bull to actually do that.
Oh, I did.
I did, in a sense that, like, they will do anything to win, but I didn't because I didn't think... I think they have too much pride in the sense that, like, they would never embarrass themselves by saying, oh, we might have made a mistake.
Well, and I think you're having a very thick layer of desperation is what we're seeing.
It's a little embarrassing.
Well, I think we're seeing panicked decisions, in my opinion. I mean,
this is a culmination of years of how you've run a business.
Well, and it's funny, something that I don't know if we touched upon it in the past few episodes, but when we watched the Drive to Survive, the newest season,
they do not.
They don't paint Christian Horner in a great light. Christian,
people claim that you have to, that they like the teams approve of the way that they look.
That's what the producer
in the show.
Stated.
I would be I'm going to use a word of the day, gobsmacked.
I knew that's what you were going to say.
My favorite word of the day. I would be gobsmacked if Christian Horner saw that and was like, yep, let's do it.
Well, so here's the funny thing, right? I think there's been a few podcasters that have kind of touched around, are we seeing, and yes, I do think that we're seeing a massive transition happening in Red Bull for the best. I don't know. But I think we're also seeing a transition in the sport. And the way I feel like I look at this sport is the 90s and earlier than that, and even in the 2000s, there was this playboy aspect, and I still think that there is. I mean,
but not as much.
You had aspects of grid girls and parties, and it was just, it gave a little bit of Wolf of Wall Street.
The concept of a modern day playboy is different now.
Well, and I also think that unfortunately the entire sport has become so data driven, engineer driven, and not saying that it wasn't back then, it's just become so much more technologically technical, And so it was funny because in Drive to Survive, there was this moment where they asked Christian Horner about what he thought about Ayo Komatsu's promotion to Haas. And Christian goes, who? Or something along the lines. And he's like, is that one of those other engineers getting promoted? And you could just tell that Christian's mindset, at least from Drive to Survive, and at least, in my opinion, from the decisions that he's currently making or his team is currently making.
And things that he said.
I feel like the Formula One modernization train has left, and Christian Horner isn't on it. Red Bull's not.
He's still at the station.
And it's sad because I think Red Bull 2 years ago, no one could ever imagine this institution in Formula One having this kind of moment of just what the hell is happening. But
well, it's interesting because even in my job, in my regular life, not in the podcast, I remember a couple years ago my boss saying something about how data teams are the way of the future.
Yeah.
And if you don't kind of hop on it or you don't try to genuinely understand data science, you're going to be left behind.
Well, and we're not saying that.
And not
that
a bad way.
But I just think that you can see that there is a changing of the guard. You're having more engineers. You're having a lot more, what I guess in Christian Horner's eyes are, not the team principals, but you're having these really intelligent humans coming up and becoming team leaders and doing really well. For example, Ayo at Haas, James Vowles. I mean, you've seen some really good turnover, not incredible. I mean, they're still building towards it, but I think so many people have touched upon this and we're in agreement that Red Bull is really at a point where you have to stop blaming the drivers. There is clearly a bigger issue at hand.
Oh, yeah.
And, I wouldn't be shocked if we see some crazy news coming from them.
Well, I also am wondering in the future, why the hell would any young driver join the Red Bull Driver Academy? Because it's clear that you have people like Yuki, who's been stuck on the lower team, on the B team for years, and has been passed off as the option for the A team for forever. So you could have that. You could be stuck in that position where you're stuck on the B team for years and you never get promoted. Or you could be the other people who get promoted, don't perform well, get dropped because they really just don't care at the end of the day. And then, why would you have no security. You don't have a quote-unquote family within the sport. Meanwhile, you have people like Zhou, who came up in the Ferrari driver academy, who now doesn't have a seat and is now a reserve driver because they know that what he can do because he's a part of the Ferrari family always, where Red Bull would not do that.
It's funny. Did you see how VCAR welcomed back Liam? It was actually very nice.
I think I did, yeah.
Yeah, and it was one of those moments where you're just like,
V-carb is different than
VCAR
Red
is
Bull.
so different. It's such a
V-carb feels like a regular team in F1, where Red Bull just feels like
they give me like an ulcer, like the anxiety.
I'm gonna use a comparison that my mother always said growing up. If it was the Hunger Games and it was me versus Red Bull for one slice of bread at the cornucopia, the Red Bull would not rip it in half and share it. They would slit my throat and end it there and win the games.
I mean, I think unfortunately you have a sport that's, because of something like Drive to Survive, because of just the amount of money, I mean, the amount of like press and coverage and the increase, and I feel like in female like spectators, you have to catch up with the times. And
100%.
Red Bull started last season on a horrible foot. Yeah. Lost a lot of respect, I feel like, from a lot of fans. That is still in the rafters, by the way. Look out January 2026 or whenever that is happening. But there's a black mark next to Red Bull, in my opinion, for a lot of people. And we saw Nick DeVries, we saw Alex Albon, we saw Pierre Gasly get replaced, but after 2 races is insane. And to do it before, and I get it, they were in a rock and a hard place, because to promote Yuki for his home race, and Yuki has been so involved with Honda, it made sense to promote him from like a Yuki relationship, but Liam
should have done it in the first place then.
But then the other bullshit of it is Liam was in Super Formula, so he has high experience at Suzuka.
Yeah.
So it was like you couldn't even give him a chance at a
track
fucking
that he
track
knows
he
well.
knows. Yeah, it's frustrating, but
because the first race of the season was pouring rain, and you had Fernando Alonso, the person who has had the longest freaking career in history, crash. So I don't put anything on anybody else who crashed that weekend, because the most experienced driver of all time did as well. And then, so it's just difficult to perform in that race. And then you go to China, a track that he's never raced in before. And so you threw him into 2 shitty situations. You can't at least give him a third race to, like, I don't know, figure it out. But apparently, I heard somewhere that it was like a mental health reason of like his mental health was deteriorating because of the extreme pressure that was put on him because of Red Bull. I'm sorry, Red Bull. You cannot just demote your problems that you created.
The other thing is
they will follow you forever.
We both didn't have the greatest departure from rowing in college. I left for mental health reasons. They're drama. It was
too
more
much
complicated. But as someone who like was physically getting ill at the thought of getting in a boat, at the thought of seeing teammates, at the thought of seeing my coach, it is crippling. It is, and to be in a F1 car with that, if that was the reason, then it's just at the end of the day.
But also, as a team, you need to learn to support your drivers. Yeah. Their mental health and with their poor performance is a reflection upon the resources that you are not giving them.
Yeah, and I think that it'd just be interesting to see if mental health in the future becomes a bigger thing, because I don't feel like it is
they don't talk about it enough nearly. Yeah. They've all mentioned it here and there.
Yeah. But, well, and I mean, we even literally, it was, Ted Lasso, right? We talk about the yips, that's what Liam is getting, and then freaking Ted Lasso's team brings in a sports psychologist to figure it out. What does Red Bull do?
They demote him.
Like, I don't know. But
not how I would have handled it. Red Bull's never inviting us to anything
yeah.
ever.
Clearly, if you couldn't tell, we have lots of thoughts. Now, granted,
I
obviously,
do like your drink, though.
Obviously, as content creators, as people who have no involvement in these teams and just watch as spectators, we obviously don't know what's happening in the background. So if these decisions
They very
were
well
made,
could have a therapist.
yeah, they very well could have a therapist. And if these decisions were made in collaboration with Liam, maybe that sheds a little bit more of a positive light on it. But, you reap what you sow, and you are sowing the downfall of Liam from the beginning, Red Bull, in my opinion, based off of your PR, the way you spoke about him.
It
You
is
didn't give him
really
a
interesting
chance.
to one last thing, and then we'll get into the rest of the
Yeah.
podcast episode. But I do find it really interesting that because of Drive to Survive, it seems like Christian Horner doesn't really like how the sport has turned into such a data-driven sport in a sense, or that it's run by data-driven people. But those typically, with the data, you can show what's going to be successful, and it's going to make data equals better business half of the time. I mean, the majority, not even the half majority of the time in the modern era
Yeah.
of the world. But they make these decisions thinking that Red Bull's been making these decisions thinking it's going to be better for business. But everything that they're doing is ruining their business. Because they've treated Red Bull like such a cutthroat Wall Street almost energy that like the lack of humanity within the business decisions have tanked the business.
Yeah.
If you relied on data more, then I think it would. Anyways,
Well, and it's tough because I'm sure there are going to be people that are gonna argue and be like, oh, well, like you didn't did you not see his performance? He was coming in dead last, and it's like, well, you also. And again, there's been this whole argument on the internet whether Red Bull has built the car for Max or they've just built an impossible car and Max is the best driver. I mean, you can say a different thing in the same way. It's one of those where I do think that this is shocking too because everyone online thinks that Max is not going to be around for much longer, at least at Red Bull.
I wouldn't be if I were him.
So, I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see how they kind of come out of this, and I really hope for Yuki and for Liam that they're both successful in the ways that they want. Not the way that Red Bull wants, but in ways that will make them happy. And, fingers crossed that we'll see some good things for both of them.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into the actual episode now. We're going to get into where we are.
Like we said 9 times before, we're at Suzuka.
No way.
Actually, the Suzuka International Racing Course. The first Grand Prix was held at Suzuka in 1987. We've kind of gone more in depth in Suzuka in the past. You can look back at our old Get Ready for Japan episodes.
We've just done a lot of, I think I've covered the 1980s races in Suzuka several times in, many different race episodes, because those are, some of the most famous ones with with Senna and Prost. So I just didn't want to dive into them again.
Yeah. So the number of laps that the drivers are doing is 53 laps. 1 lap is 5.807 kilometers or 3.608 miles. And then with those 53 laps, their entire race distance comes out to 307.471 kilometers or 191.054 meters or miles. Jesus Christ. It's been a very long work day. So the lap record, which was actually broken this year, the lap record was held by Lewis Hamilton. It was placed in 2019 in a Mercedes, and he did that in 1 minute and 30.983 seconds. And another Mercedes took the fastest lap.
Kimi Antonelli.
So we broke that record. I don't have the time. I know it's in 1:30, but I don't have the exact point. I think it was 0.7 or something. But
for some reason, this is totally off topic, but on topic with Kimi. I know how young some of the rookies are, and I know that Kimi is in high school, but it like really hit me how young he was when I saw him get out of the car this weekend. I was like, oh my gosh, you're tiny. You are tiny. He's tiny.
well,
He's a
they're
child.
all small.
He's 19.
Yeah. Well, the other thing was he came with like his family too, like his mom and dad and his
What
little
was it,
sister.
Australia or China, that he was walking around like holding hands with his little sister?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my, you are a kid.
Yeah. So there are 18 turns on this racetrack, and then there's only one DRS zone. That DRS zone is oh my god. The detection zone is after turn 15. And then the actual DRS zone is in that start finish straight. So between turns 18 and 1. Yeah, I like it. The one thing I didn't realize, and I don't know if we've ever talked about this before, if you look at a track map, Suzuka is long and squished. And they were talking about it, the pundits were talking about it, and the reason why, when they were designing this circuit, they were designing it around the whole idea of like a Honda like track that they could practice on. And they didn't want to take up too much like space, and so the track is actually surrounded by like rice paddy fields and like agriculture, and like they
Sick.
tried to not take up too much space essentially.
Leave it to the Japanese to do something actually smart.
But I just thought that was like an interesting tidbit. The other thing that I wanted to mention was, I think in the first sector and a little bit of the third sector, the track was repaved. Is that what they say?
Yeah, repaved.
Yeah. Okay. I'm losing it. I've been looking at Excel all day.
MC's
guys.
tired from work. I'm tired from work, and I'm jet lagged and tired.
We're doing good.
I know. At least I'm not wearing my pajamas like I did like a year and a half ago when I came home from vacation when I was in Scotland, and we did that on our couch. That was bad.
Yeah.
That was really bad. Anyways, are you ready to get into practice?
I am.
Cool. Just a comment before we start practice. At the end of last episode, we did say, take a guess on like what activity I'm going to be doing, like F1 activity I'm going to be doing on vacation. We in fact did not do that activity. And I just wanted to say it before I forgot about it. So there is a Carlos Sainz like karting place in Madrid that is now closed.
What?
The one in the city. The one that there is one that he still owns, but it's like, I would have had to rent a car to get there. It's out of the city, and I wasn't about to do that. But I did find out from our cousin, Christina, that she said that they used to have they had some of the kids' birthday parties there at the Carlos Sainz karting place.
Are you kidding? Oh my god, that's so funny.
And there was one point where I was standing in a market for some reason. I don't know what market, but I'm standing in a market and we're just like trying to find something. And then all of a sudden I see an ad come on, and it's a Fernando Alonso TV ad. And I just go, Fernando Alonso? And my friends whip their heads around
thinking it's really him.
It was just a TV screen.
Saying that in Spain, your friends are probably like, oh my god, he's here.
No, he is in fact in Japan. Anyways, to practice.
Okay, so FP1, it was announced that Haas had brought upgrades, and this was mostly around their floor. I felt like a lot of the chatter, because for those that don't watch practice is like a teeny tiny version. If you did watch, I doubt if you didn't watch testing, you're gonna watch. Anyways, it's like a long form podcast. The pundits just do a lot of talking, which is good because they're actually giving you a lot of information on anything that the teams have done in the last like week or two. And so a lot of the talk was just around Red Bull, as I mean, you guys just heard us pontificate for 15 minutes. Another thing to note was that Jack Doohan wasn't in FP1. Hirakawa, who is one of the reserve drivers, was in his car, so Jack was out of this session.
Who was just recently announced over the weekend after he did that Alpine session that he is now the reserve driver for, I think it's Haas.
Seriously?
Yes, it's Haas. Yeah.
Oh my god, that's awesome. Well, congrats. Um, there was a funny moment, and again, this kind of furthers the fact that guys were only on the third race. I don't know if you caught it, but Carlos missed his pit lane.
I did see that.
He just went like right past it. And that just shows they're still figuring it out, you guys. Alex and Lando did end up in the gravel during this session, and then there was a moment where Max said that the car was flexing a bit, and James Hinchcliffe said he felt that said that Max probably felt that the front end was probably too soft, but also admitted this wasn't the wording he was used to. Like, to hear someone say the car was flexing a bit, he's like, that's not really something like drivers say. So they weren't 1000% sure on like Max's meaning behind that. So not sure.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard that term before.
In FP1, Yuki was 0.1 seconds behind Max in the top 10, and Red Bull seemed to be doing okay. The one thing too, and oh my god, I keep saying the one thing. Additionally, the wind was really strong, and it was cold. It was cold this weekend.
Yeah. Normally, this time of year, last year, it was like spring, cherry blossoms.
I mean, there were cherry blossoms, but
there I didn't see.
Yeah, there was like one of the cameras you could see it in like the way they had it, you could see it in the top. That's all I really had for FP1, and I don't really have who came in the top 3. Emma's gonna
Uno momento, por favor.
You can tell
I speak Spanish. No. Well, actually, I am working on my Spanish, guys. We're gonna get there. Okay, top 5. Lando was P1, George P2, Charles P3, Lewis P4, and Max P5. And just so you guys know, just because it's Yuki, Yuki was P6, so just right behind Max. So he was doing really well.
Yeah. FP2 starts off
horribly.
Jack Doohan in an Alpine goes into his second flying lap and smashes into the wall.
Yeah,
8 minutes into the session. And when I say, like, everyone watching, like, all the pundits were like, we haven't seen a crash as bad in, like, a few years. Like, this heavy.
Like, it was like the Strolls in, what was it, Singapore a couple years ago?
Yeah.
Like, it was not good.
So, basically, I don't even remember what happened.
Okay. I just rewatched this yesterday.
Okay.
So, basically, going out of, I think it's turn 1.
Yeah.
He had his DRS open because you can do that right before turn 1. And the way DRS will automatically turn off on its own for specific points, but going into that turn, you have to turn it off yourself manually because of the way that the turn is. And so if you don't turn it off at the right time, if you start turning, then basically you have no rear end, so your car is just going to fly off. And even worse is that if he was still full sending.
Yeah, he was.
And so he was like already doing something risky in the sense that he was full sending turn 1 at full speed. Like, he was not slowing down for the turn, which is normally people are going to slow down for it. And so he was full speed, did not turn off the DRS. I think he turned it off just as he was about to turn, and so it just wasn't early enough where as he was just about to turn, the car had no rear basically and just completely spun out.
I had seen something, and I don't know if this is true, so I'd have to go back and fact check it, but I had seen someone say that Jack had tried that, keeping his DRS open into that turn on the sim, and it had success with it.
I saw that too, but
I don't know
think that
how
that's
true that is. Yeah, okay.
Because when you think about it, you're full sending a car into a turn that literally has no rear downforce then.
Yeah.
So it's not going to stick to the ground in the back
it's
at
just
all.
Gonna go.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was not great.
It would be like your rear wheels just slipped on ice
Yeah.
and the front didn't.
Yeah. The other thing that kind of adds to how shitty this entire situation was that Jack had sat out for FP1, so he really only had like 3-4 laps under his belt.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he had experience at this track before.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
So Fernando Alonso got beached in the gravel,
King.
which lifted another red flag. 25 minutes left into the session, and Max, because of all the red flags, has only done 3 laps. And then with 13 minutes and 30 seconds left, another red flag was raised because the grass was on fire.
Yeah. This happened in China last year.
I think it did, yeah. It did. It just, if it's dry enough and with all the sparks that are coming off these cars, it's not surprising. Another red flag was thrown up with 10 seconds left because the grass is on fire again. So really, like, just the main theme of this was red flags. I don't think it was uber successful for anyone in terms of just running anything. I think a lot of people struggled to put in like long run sessions.
They're fine.
And they're fine. I don't have much for FP3 because it was pretty quiet. Jack was able to get back into the session.
It is very impressive that they were able to rebuild that car overnight.
Yeah, like absolute props and kudos to the mechanics in that garage because you did something that I honestly don't think a lot of teams could do.
I was not expecting the car, because I saw the crash on social media before I watched everything, so I knew what was going on, like, generally throughout the weekend, and I was honestly expecting him to not be able to race the weekend.
Well, and I think his gearbox wasn't affected or some power unit wasn't affected, so they didn't have to replace it. They didn't feel like they had to replace it.
I honestly am surprised health-wise he raced, which we'll talk about at the end.
Yeah. So all I really have for FP3 was that he was able to get back into the session. Isaac had an issue but didn't really specify, and I'm not sure if this is the same issue that
it was the same issue
in quali. Yeah,
it was.
We'll get to that in quali. 53 minutes left. There was another red flag because there was fire on the grass again. But that's really all the notes I have. It was a pretty clean session, especially after the red flags the earlier day. I think people just wanted to get time in, and qualies today or that day. So a lot more important. Not a lot more, but has more weight. So that's all I have for practice. I think just like the standout moment was Jack, and yeah, it was tough to watch.
Yeah. All right, we are going to get into quali now.
Qualifying. So at the beginning of Q1, Yuki was doing pretty well, putting in a time, getting him up to P3. Both McLarens looked pretty good, and then George was able to put in a fast lap and split them. This is where things got confusing because Isaac put in an okay time, but reports that he's having the same issue as
he
earlier
seemed very not okay
with his engineer. And it seemed to be an issue in the nether regions.
Well, so he ends up being able to do like another lap basically, and then he goes in, they try to like adjust everything, and then they send him out to do another lap, and he ends up qualifying for Q2, and then he's like driving back after that, and he's like, oh my gosh, it's happening again. And then he goes back in, and they're like, do you need to jump out of the car for a moment? And he's like, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you can hear like the sheer panic in his voice of like, oh no. So basically, something was going on
down there
with Isaac's balls, essentially. Poor kid.
Kid did not want to talk about it. That's all I can tell you, and we don't really want to talk about it either.
All I can say is when they showed the video of his face and them trying to adjust everything.
Just pain.
It just looked like sheer pain. Like, I felt bad for him.
Yeah, my note says, something is going on with the fit of the cockpit for Isaac. When they showed him in the garage, they had the engineers in his cockpit, and he looked like he was wincing. Those are
Well,
my
that's what
notes.
the commentators, they're like, is he
Yeah.
wincing?
So he had gone in. So he hadn't gotten out of the car. Someone had gone in and adjusted whatever. And then he needed to put in a time again. He still
Yeah.
needed to put in a lap. And he was like, there's no time. But he was still able to successfully put it in a lap. Kimmy was in the drop zone along with both Astons, and then as the
I think that
time-
that's going to be Kimmy's weakness this season,
what?
qualifying.
Mm.
I think Kimmy's really good in the race as what we've seen so far, but I think his qualifying is where he's struggling.
Yeah, so Kimmy goes to 7th. And then there's just like a bunch of movements. So like Fernando went to 11th, Jack went to P16. Isaac was luckily able to move up to P12. And then we unfortunately saw Liam Lawson in P15, I think. But
No, I think he was P16.
16. Well, this was as they were coming in. So
Ah,
Emma, who got knocked out that round?
let us see.
The final 5.
The final 5. Okay, you're correct. Liam Lawson did move on. Okay, so P16 was Nico Hulkenberg, P17 Gabriel Bortoleto, P18 Esteban Ocon, P19 Jack Doohan, and P20 Lance Stroll. Jack Doohan, I am fully convinced, had a concussion, was not okay, should not have been in the car. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
I also know nothing. I'm not a doctor.
Well, I think we also have to remember how many drivers that have driven with like broken bones, how many like they're pushing their bodies to an insane limit, and Jack isn't the first guy to do it. Do I think it's health and like safe and healthy? No. But, you know.
Anyways,
Quali 2. So the McLarens and Max this entire time were showing a pretty strong performance. And
I
Isaac
feel like that's what we're going to say every single week.
Yeah. Isaac was able to put in a good lap. We saw at one point Alex go up to 5th place, which was super exciting. And then the red flag goes up again because the grass is on fire.
That's what happened. I think I fell asleep at this point.
Yuki, unfortunately, was not having as good of a session as the practices and I think as Q1. And it looked like he was going to be knocked out. Ollie and Isaac were both able to put in really good laps this session. And unfortunately, Carlos has just not been able to like get in tune with the Williams.
I think he will.
But I think he will. Like I think that's the thing is that
he had a new chassis this weekend.
Yeah, there's going to be upgrades that they're going to bring. He's going to get more used to it. And I think him and James Voles have both been quoted saying something along the lines of, like, they see it taking 5 to 10 races for him to get used to it.
Yeah.
And then James was like, I don't think it's going to take Carlos even 5 races. So we'll see what happens. The one thing to note that was a little spicy that a lot of people were like, theater online. Liam was faster than Yuki. They only, for some reason, I'm pretty sure they only had Yuki do like one fast lap this session.
Yeah, they only did, which is problematic.
Which is problematic and also obviously like
stupid.
Skews all the data. But a lot of people were kind of like, why? Like, why would you run it like this? Why wouldn't you have him do more? Like, to risk one fast lap? Like, I don't know. Again, it Red Bull.
I have no words.
And then after this session, we found out that Carlos Sainz was under investigation, which we'll tell you what happens at the end of quali. But I think there was like impeding or yeah. Lewis was on his fast lap, and then there was just I think miscommunication, and Carlos was in the way, and like really badly in the way, and
it happens.
It happens, you know. But who got knocked out of Q2?
Another great question. I don't know why I keep putting my phone away. Okay. P11, Pierre Gasly. P12, Carlos Sainz. P13, Fernando Alonso. P14, Liam Lawson. And P15, Yuki Tsunoda.
Yeah, and I think you could definitely... It's funny, because I feel like especially post race, you can already feel frustration. Like there's already frustration at the car.
He hates the car.
Yeah, like you can tell that he is swallowing.
He's going from the V carb, which I think he was really, for the first time in a while, he was really enjoying the car he had, and now he's being thrown into the A team, quote unquote, but the car is horrific.
Yeah. So sad to see him out in Q2, but you know, it's his first race in this, what I guess some can call car. Q3, Max does a good time, but then Oscar's able to beat him out. George made a mistake in his final run, which ended up missing his opportunity to be on pole. And then towards the end, Lando went to pole, but then Max, and this was a lap that a lot of people were like, this was the lap of his life. Max was able to put in a flying lap, and he was able to get pole position by just over 100 of a second.
I've never heard him be so happy on the radio after that lap.
His reactions after quali and after this race like really showed you like even Max is working his fucking ass off.
Yeah.
Like
last year, I don't think so as much.
He said he wanted to bring his pillow last year, 2 years ago. Like, bro was coasting. It was 18 plus seconds at some points. Like, right now he's fighting for his life.
I mean, even the race finish was like a second.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to mention was that Isaac had a really great showing. I feel like Isaac and didn't Ollie have a good showing?
Yeah, they both made it to the top
10,
correct?
C. So I just thought that was interesting. But who are the top 10, Em?
The top 10 are, drum roll, P1, Max Verstappen, obviously. P2, Lando Norris. P3, Oscar Piastri. P4, Charles Leclerc. P5, George Russell. P6, Kimi Antonelli. P7, Isaac Hadjar. P8, Lewis Hamilton. P9, Alex Albon. And P10, Ollie Behrman. So we had 3 rookies in the top 10.
Yeah, and one thing to note, I think this is 3
Is Esteban? Sorry. Continue.
I think this is 3 for 3 for Alex being in Q3.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
3 races of also point scoring.
Yeah.
Was Esteban struggling a lot with the car this weekend? Or is Ollie just gelling with it?
I don't know. I don't know I don't know.
They haven't focused enough on Haas.
They haven't focused enough on Haas, and when they do, they focus on Ollie. I don't know if they're doing 2 different things to the car or what's going on with Esteban, if they're doing 2 different runs to figure it out, but
because I feel like Ollie's been like up there in the middle of the points and Esteban's been at the bottom for the last few weekends.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on Esteban's front.
They'll figure it out.
Something to keep an eye on though.
Yeah, definitely interesting. All right, we are going to get into the race now. The race.
So, Isaac and Liam were both having operational issues right at the beginning. Shocker, Isaac's seat was loose.
Yeah, so people are saying that that's the reason why he was having ball issues, basically. I'm sorry. He almost lost his ability to have children, man.
Yeah.
Poor kid. Anyways, people were saying that that's the reason why that was happening. But, like, the commentators were like, it's the 3rd race. Like,
how is
you figure out seat problems in testing. What's going on?
Yeah.
It's weird.
One thing that I really wanted to focus on, and that has, like, it has me really annoyed.
The Carlos Sainz thing?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So if you didn't know, Carlos Sainz was, during the national anthem, he left in the middle of it.
Well, also, the national anthem rules, someone on Reddit commented that the national anthem fines weren't a thing until Sochi. So
Russia made it happen.
Yeah. So take with that what you will. Now, my biggest issue, and I'm sure those that have been listening know, we don't know where the money goes. 20,000 euros.
Well, yeah, let's tell him. Okay, he had to leave the national anthem to go to the bathroom, and he even got a doctor's note saying he was having
medical issues.
As a stomach problem girly, if I have to go to the bathroom, I have to go to the bathroom. You know, I think it's a bit more respectful for me to leave during the national anthem
than
for me to shit my pants in front of the whole world on national television.
In a white race suit to boot.
Oh, it would have been so bad.
It is so infuriating that
Bro got fined $20,000 even with a doctor's note.
But, like, guys.
To who? Who gets that money?
But just a touch of reality, 20,000 euros is an incredibly ridiculous amount of money. That is more money than some people make in a year. And to be charging him that for not showing up on time
for medical
is
problems,
absolutely asinine in my opinion. Donate the fucking money to IBS research, FIA, and we'll call it even. But at the end of the day, really think about the decisions you're making. What are you doing treating them like school children, telling them they can't go to the bathroom? What are you gonna fucking do? Give them a hall pass? I don't know. It's absolutely
you're gonna give them more IBS because they're gonna be scared to go to the bathroom. They're gonna hold it.
It's the same thing with the cursing thing. I mean, I hope that knowing Carlos's role in the GPDA, and the fact that he has talked about the expense in Team Torque, he's talked about the expense of this sport. I do hope that like something happens because this is ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
It is just absolutely ridiculous that you're charging him 20,000 euros to take a fucking shit. Get over yourselves. Anyways, that's my rant. It has me so angry. No, because it's like it's not even human and it's stupid. Like
you're finding him for like okay, I understand.
Ben and Stefano, next time you guys have to go to the bathroom and you're at a Formula 1 event, I want to see you guys have to hold it, struggle, and then come back to me.
And be in a onesie that you have to take all that off.
A onesie with multiple layers because you're trying not to get fucking burned alive. So annoying. As
I understand like the extreme fine for like crossing the track after your car is crashed, but like the race is still going on. I understand that because that is like a legitimate safety problem. This is just stupidity.
I would also understand it if he had done something disrespectful during the anthem, or if he had done something that you were like, what the?
He had a doctor's note.
Literally had a medical note, and I just. Anyways, that really, really pissed me off. If you guys can tell. So
we stand with you, Carlos.
Yeah. as you know,
stomach girlies
and part Spanish. We stand
get
with
it.
You. Yeah. So back to the race. To start it off, the start was very clean.
Oh, it's been so clean. It's so annoying. I want drama. And I don't want anyone to get hurt, but I want drama at the start.
Well, and that's the funny thing is that Max has his normal good start and keeps
Yeah,
the lead.
as I'm watching, whenever Max gets pole, I know exactly how the start is going to go for him. Vroom, just shove everybody else over.
So that's the thing is that a lot of people called this race boring was because there wasn't a lot of movement. Basically, the way quali happened was very similar to the final grid lineup, and there just wasn't a ton of movement. And to see no action in that first start in that lineup, like that's kind of where all the craziness happens. And it was just clean. It was just, and luckily for like a lot of people who haven't been able to have clean races in the last two ones, it was good for them. In the start, Yuki was able to get past Liam Lawson, and then the biggest concern too was there was a possibility of rain earlier, or like during the race, but that just like never happened, and it had rained during the night, so there was occasional damp patches, but all of the drivers decided to just go with slicks. Closer to the beginning of the race, as everyone was settling in, Max started to complain about his upshifts being bad.
They said that it would adjust eventually.
And then, yeah, they finally were like, after a few races, they were like... After a few laps, they were like, this is fine. Jolyon Palmer did state that, like, this was something that was super marginal, that, like, it's such a small amount, but enough that it can, like, really throw off a driver. By lap 7, Max already had a 2-second lead, which genuinely concerned me because we were at lap 7. I was like, oh God, we're at that point where it's going to be another 10-second win, 10-second lead. But it didn't really get further than that.
No, I think he only won by like a second in total.
Yeah, it was like a second and a half. So,
justice for Oscar during this race yet again.
Yeah. So, going further, up the laps, a lot of the teams were talking about,
the way you phrase that, going further up the further on in the race.
My notes are all over the place. I'm all over the place. It's been
what are we up to?
The dogs are barking. I'm stressed. So at lap 20, I think George is one of the first people to pit. A lot of the teams thought that this is going to be a one-stop race, which I think it did for almost everyone. And the one thing we ended up finding out after the race was that because it was so cold, there was very little tire degradation happening. And so a lot of the drivers said that this felt like 53 quali laps, that they were able to just push the whole time. But that it was like, and I think that's why we saw, Kimi Antonelli break the record, but it's because they were just like balls to the wall 100% the entire time.
Must have been exhausting.
Yeah, and I think a lot of them were. At this point, Lando is trying to catch up to Max, and then Max and Lando both pit, and there is a slight...
Well, they did do a fake pit, McLaren, and it was very obvious what they were doing, though. Like, it was so obvious, the pundits, they were like, he's not actually pitting right now. Let's wait to see if he goes past the pit opening. And they're like, oh, and there he goes, straight past the pit opening. This was so obvious to all of us.
Yeah. Lando is also trying to catch up, and, sorry, my
exiting the pit.
Thank you,
after
Emma.
They both obviously went in to change their tires. Max goes out. Well, Lando comes out first, but Max kind of pushes past him in the pit lane. They, like, kind of raced in the pit lane, to be honest. And then Lando is on the grass exiting the pit lane. Like, they're literally battling each other exiting. I don't know how they got away with that unscathed. Like, and with no penalty points for either one of them, to be honest.
Well, and it's funny because watching it and having them talk about it after the race, I don't think Max was at fault. I think that it was, like...
I didn't watch it a replay enough.
Yeah, I think it was Lando trying to take advantage of something. No, it was more of a shit show from Lando. Like,
I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't think it was necessary, but I definitely think he was just trying to...
I think that's probably why they just joked around about it.
Yeah. Around the same time, Alex got testy on the radio.
Yeah, this new Alex, not new, this revived Alex Albon with the sassiness. I'm loving it to a level.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. He is very frustrated, it sounded like, from his team. So, yeah, that was just definitely interesting because I feel like
he said that, like, there was something, I think it was
like, you guys make no sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was
and they were like, we need you to explain it a little bit better. And he was like, I've been saying what I've been saying all the whole time.
I also think he was frustrated with the strategy call for
yeah, because they were like, Ollie just pitted, and he was like, well, why didn't we pit before?
Yeah. I feel like, honestly, at this point, the only really big issue to happen was the fact that we get to a point after the pits that
everybody's just sitting.
Everyone's sitting, but then Oscar starts to move on Max. Not Max,
Lando.
Lando. like,
They tell they tell Oscar to hold place, basically.
and it's just the same old that we've been dealing with McLaren. Do I think Oscar would have been able to pass Max?
Maybe.
Maybe, and I think that's what the frustrating thing
I think
is.
knowing the way that Oscar drives, I honestly, in that moment,
I think he could
think that
have.
he had the best chance out of the two of them to pass Max.
Yeah, and I think it's frustrating because, and I know other people have talked about this, and I agree, we're going to see something very similar happen, and Oscar is going to give Lando the spot. And it's just going to be so frustrating because
You can't keep claiming you don't have a number one driver when you treat someone like a number two in the strategy calls. Every time.
Every time. And it's just, I think it's just going to be a really interesting.
And I think that they keep saying they only have number one drivers because both Lando and Oscar have the ability and have won races. But let me remind you, Valtteri Bottas still won races racing for Mercedes, and he was the known number two driver.
Yeah. It's something that they have got to figure out. It's
at that point now where it has to be figured out.
Well, and I mean, the thing is that Lando and Oscar both signed extensions. They both have like at least another season together.
Their relationship seems fine for now, but if it's several years of this, it's not going to be.
Well, and it's just, how are you sitting there, like we said, how are you stating that you don't have a number one driver, but then you're not making the conscious decision of like, oh, maybe we should put Oscar ahead.
Yeah, like let's give it a try.
Yeah. So definitely frustrating. But at that point, I feel like that's really the last like major thing that happened.
And that was the
in
race. That was it.
Yeah. So what ended up happening was well, so to finish it, Max ended up winning. Shocker. Lando came in second.
Shocker.
Oscar came in third.
Shocker.
It was close.
Yeah.
It was tight. But that was it. It was lackluster. That's really all I had to like. It had the potential to be really exciting, and I think when McLaren just did not put Oscar ahead, it was like, this is it.
Yeah.
And
if they had done that, it would have been more exciting. But
yeah. So do we want to talk about?
Well, the last thing I have to say is even in the post-race post-race cool-down room, they're watching the highlights of the race. And at the end, Oscar goes, "That was it? That was the race? That was the highlights?" And everybody was like, "Yeah, we know, Oscar." Especially because watching the race in the U.S., it's on at midnight. So people were like, "I stayed up for this."
I did not watch it live.
Yeah, I know.
I do want to mention that we didn't really talk about his performance in the race, but Yuki did struggle. He wasn't really happy with his performance. He was not super far out of points.
Yuki was 12th.
Yeah, I was going to say he was 12th.
Liam Lawson was 17th.
Yeah. And so, I don't know, man. You guys got to figure it out. I don't know if you need to take them out to lunch and treat them nice, but you got to figure out your drivers and not figure them out by replacing them. Nurture. Gentle parent. Good.
I think, no. Yes, I agree. But I think Red Bull needs to be gentle parented before they can gentle parent.
The FIA?
I don't know.
That's never gonna happen.
I don't know. They need something.
I don't know. Yeah.
A whole new... they need a restructure at this rate.
I don't even know if they need a restructure. I just think they need to figure out...
They need a Ted Lasso. They need a Ted Lasso.
They need to figure out their leadership. And, yeah. I mean, we could talk about it for eons.
Days.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to get into our final thoughts. Because you guys haven't heard us talk enough about ranting about everything that's going on in F1 right now. To mention people not in F1, Marta Garcia, the F1 Academy winner 2 years ago, she was racing in a GT race, I think it was, in Barcelona, or in, because I just got back from Spain. Barcelona. I'm sorry. And she got into a really bad accident. She looks okay, but she got into a bad accident, and it just looked a little weird.
Well, and it was go see her post because she talks about it, and like just her post on Instagram. She basically explains how she got stuck in the car. She couldn't open the door.
Oh, I didn't see this.
Yeah, and the back of the car, when you watch the crash, the back of the car is on fire. And so she breathed in smoke and she started to panic. But then again, thank God for all the people that are the race marshals for any motorsport event. They were able to get her out. But like, yeah, go read her post on Instagram. It's the one of her in the hospital. But yeah, I can't even imagine just having to keep yourself like collected.
Yeah.
Kind of in a similar fashion, there was a video, so you
of
can
Jack.
see the F1 TV, and I think whatever other venues that you can watch, Sky Sports, you can see the individual racing drivers like camera point of view from like seeing their helmets, the top of their helmets in the front of their car throughout the whole race. And those stay on when they're pulling into, like, when they finish the race and they have to pull into, like, Parc Fermé. And it's been going viral, but people didn't, the spectators and fans didn't realize how hurt Jack was.
Yeah.
Until this, because I honestly was waiting to, like, hear a report of, like, he broke ribs, because we've seen Oscar Piastri had broken ribs before, like, you know, I was waiting for something, and there was the footage of him and his mechanics come up to him and he cannot pick himself out of the car. And you actually see Esteban Ocon come, as well as his mechanics, helping him out of the car. And when he comes out, you see him limping and holding onto his shoulder. And I think it just like goes to show the extreme extents that athletes in general, and specifically F1 athletes, are willing to put their bodies through. A lot of people who don't watch the sport, who don't understand it, I mean, including us, kind of see it as like, oh, they're just driving in circles. Like, it can't be that hard. You know, I can drive my car. But it is so physically demanding, and after a hit with the amount of G's that Jack had the previous day, you could just see what this race did to him. And so I'm very nervous because this was the first of a triple header. And so I'm just a little fearful of
he's not going to have the time.
He's just not going to have time to recover.
And then he might not perform well, and then he might be replaced.
Yeah, and I would hate to see that because I don't think he's been given
a proper go.
Think any of the rookies right now have been given a proper go. I think they still deserve more time, and I think, you know, I don't know, as teams, like, be more fucking confident in the drivers you chose. Like, have more pride and build them up. Don't sit there and talk to the freaking the journalists and be like, well, you know, we got Franco Colapinto on the rafters, but we love Jack. Like, shut the hell up. Because you know what, at the end of the day,
it makes it not only as a spectator, but like, it gives me flashbacks as an athlete, but like, to me, it just makes it feel like you don't view them as human beings. You view them as just a chess piece in your board game.
Yeah, and I think it's just like, just have their back. Like, build levels of trust. And I'm sure they do, you know? Like, this is all just, we're not there for every conversation, and they're with each other so much more than we know. But it's just, like, from the outside looking in, like any team, not just Alpine, you know, Red Bull, all you guys, have the actual backs of your drivers. Like grow up. Like, that's all I can say. Like,
oh my God.
I don't know. Like, it's like, just get out of the drama.
Yeah. As much as we all love the drama, This is not the kind of drama we love. We like the
No.
racing drama on the actual track. I don't like hearing that the driver's mental health is struggling or that they have broken ribs and they still get thrown into the cars and they're fearful for their jobs. Like, they're sitting in the car being like, I'm gonna lose my job.
Yeah, well, and it's like you just sit there and you're like, you don't hear people talk about the team principle of Prost and his drama. You hear about Senna and like you hear about the drivers' rivalries, and you hear about the occasional crazy like character, like Flavio or guys earlier from back in the day. But it's this, I don't know, this lack of like confidence in your drivers is just not attractive in my opinion.
No.
But I don't know. I feel like I've been really angry this
You've
episode.
had a very angry episode.
There's a lot going on in the world, you guys, right now, and I'm just a girl.
I was just gonna say the quote from Notting Hill. I'm just a girl.
Standing in front of a boy, asking it to love me. And that's
Do you
probably
think that's how
probably
they
what
feel?
Jack is saying in Alpine.
Anyways, this upcoming weekend is Bahrain, since it's a triple header, and we just don't have the time right now for oh my gosh, get ready episode for Bahrain. You will get a recap of Bahrain, get ready for Saudi. We're just not gonna have a get ready episode for this upcoming weekend, just due to the chaos of vacations, and life. So, next time you guys will hear from us is after Bahrain. So fingers crossed, everything goes well.
The good thing is that everyone had lots and lots of time at Bahrain.
Yes, everyone's driven at
Bahrain. So, the bad thing is that the weather is probably going to be very drastically different than it was in testing.
Yes.
But that's okay. That's what's going to make for funness.
Yeah.
But
hopefully. Anyways, I think that's everything. Yeah.
Sorry, Mom, I cursed so much this episode. I know you're listening.
Oh, Donna did text me, thank me for correcting you on how to pronounce Jeff.
She called me. She called me and she's like, "Thank God your sister did that." And I was like, "Oh, Jesus Christ, woman!"
Anyways,
God, it's so hard.
It's so hard being a girl.
I feel like Neil. I feel like Martyr Neil.
Okay, on that note, let's not get into family drama.
Family drama being our father.
Anyways, make sure to follow us on all of the things. Like, comment, subscribe. Until next time.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Bye.